Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and we have the third of the 3 countries that I'll be reviewing today of the 6 that were chosen or revealed or whatever during yesterday's superlative Saturday as I've taken to calling it. I'll be doing 3 more tomorrow, but just so I don't overwork myself, these reviews take a lot of work. Anyway, the country that I'm talking about at the moment is Sweden. Haha! I have a bit of a history with this country, as people who've been with my channel for a while may already know. Their song this year comes to us from Bengtsson, and the title is I Can't Go On. It's completely in English, music and lyrics by David Kreuger, Hamid Piruspana, also known as K1, and their 2013 representative Robin Juanberg. And, yeah, Sweden, you just picked a song, didn't you? People feel a certain type of way about this one. My personal first impressions. Right. Thanks to my parents, this is the one year that I've actually sat down and followed Melodifestivalen from start to finish. So, I've seen a lot of stuff this year. And let's get one of the 2 necessary mind blows out of the way early here. Yeah, I did actually like Loreen's song. I'm just going to leave a moment right there just for that to sink in, because people who know me will be absolutely shell-shocked by that revelation. So, enjoy. But I do think it wouldn't have been right for Eurovision in the grand scheme of things. I'm glad that it lost out in Andra Chansen, simply because if it got to Eurovision, it wouldn't have been judged as what it was meant to be. It would have been judged as the next Euphoria, which I don't think would have been fair for anyone, least of all Loreen. So, anyway, the thing that tickles me the most in all of this is it was my parents' idea to watch the show in the first place, and by the end of it, I was the only one of the 3 of us who actually ended up not hating the winner, and this amuses me to no end. My mother thinks it is, quote, a pile of wank, and my father thinks that Robin has a very punchable face, another quote. Although for reference, he said the same thing of Måns in 2015 and Alexander Rybak in 2009, maybe he just wants to punch successful Scandinavian pop artists? I don't know. As for me, well, I'm not floored by this song. It was not my favourite, nor do I think it was the strongest in the lineup, and I do think that this song does demonstrate the point of one think piece article that I read a few weeks ago, which spoke about how the Melodifestivalen app and its heart votes have kind of screwed over the voting system, so the jury has more than 50% of the power in the final voting, but now's not the time for that discussion. What I will say is, well, there's one line in there, and I can't tell whether it's hands down to the floor or pants down to the floor, and I think it's funnier if I don't know for certain either way. Anyway, what do I think about this song on a slightly less waffly note? As always, let's start with the good points, the positives, the things that I like about this song, and for once, I'm not having to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find nice things to say about Sweden, because I can be a little bit like that. I like to have balanced reviews, but occasionally personal bias gets in the way. Well, that's not a problem this year, so first, foremost, and most obviously, he does what Sweden does best at Eurovision, takes an idea for staging that's technically been done before, then cranks it up to 11 and proceeds to take all the credit for pioneering it when he didn't. Granted, I don't know if that's actually happening this year, so I kind of take that back, but I have seen it happen before. Loreen wasn't the first to dance barefoot, Måns didn't invent interacting with the background, etc, etc. And Robin's not the first to mess with the 4th wall by starting backstage, and he's not the first to dance on a treadmill, but to his credit, the staging does have a distinct plan of entertaining the audience in mind throughout. The whole idea is to be entertaining consistently, so that's to his credit, and honestly, I'm also inclined to mention the choreography as a separate point in the list of good things, because, yeah, it works really well with the staging, but it's also a world unto itself. What with that hand gesture, you know, the whole, looks so fucking beautiful, that was a terrible rendition of it, but that. Granted, Italy's doing something similar with the whole naked ape dance thing, so Sweden, again, not the first to have done it, but instead of having an identifying noise, as a couple of songs do this year, this song has an identifying gesture. So, yeah, most people can copy that fairly easily. Some people won't be able to by way of, I don't know, paralysis, lost limbs or whatever, but I think the majority of people will be able to follow along with it if they so choose, so props there. In his live performance, Robin definitely conveys total conviction and belief in his song, as do his backing dancers actually through their posture. Belief in the song, especially across the board like that, not just in the artist but in his backup people as well, that's always a good foundation from which to build support and credibility for an entry, so he's got that covered right out of the gate, as well as his capability for performing live in general, actually. Also, the refrain itself is simple enough to be memorable, but distinct enough not to be set aside as too generic, so it's fairly easy to call to mind even without a recap, which is surprisingly useful, regardless of whether or not you intend to vote for it, because if you can call it to mind, you can remember either to remind yourself why you do want to vote for it, why you don't want to vote for it, or to help you come to a decision one way or the other. So the song is portable. I can't really think of a better way of putting it. So you don't need a recap. You can just sort of walk down the street and just randomly go, I can't go on. And you know how it goes, just with that much of an identifier to go on. It's easy to remember. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. Moving on. The other side of the insert metaphor here, the points that I would consider to be a bit more negative that someone might use to justify them not liking the song as much. Well, the problem with this type of song, especially when performed with this type of confidence, is that it can come across as overwhelmingly smug and self-satisfied, which can really rub some people the wrong way. Case in point, both my parents. And thus that can put people right off the song. Your mileage may vary, of course, but there is a fine line between confidence, swagger, and outright narcissism, be it perceived or otherwise. I'm not saying that's how he is, but if that's how he seems, then that can be all it takes to trigger a sort of domino reaction here. And off the back of that, his confident demeanour coupled with the lyrics and the narrative of the song, it can almost lend the narrative kind of an air of stalkeriness, perhaps even bordering on Robin Thicke territory. It's more than likely intended as a compliment, this idea of, oh, you're so beautiful, I don't know what I can do to make myself seem like I'm worthy of your attention, that kind of thing. And, you know, that's nice, it's pleasant, but it can very easily come across as, oh, you're so beautiful, I can't control myself, and it's okay for me to think with my genitals because you're pretty. And that is absolutely a very bad moral to be telling people, but I don't think it is the intended message, but you can read it that way, and that's slightly worrying. In short, you can ruin the song for yourself by reading too much into it. You might deem it to be sexist, but if you do, then it is kind of a both ways thing. It's sexist to women for implying that beauty is their most important asset of all things, and it's sexist to men for implying that they are only capable of thinking with their genitals when there's a woman of significant aesthetic whatever in the room. Like I said, that is absolutely not the intention with this song, but you really do have to be careful in this day and age when approaching this kind of topic. Also, on a much more light-hearted note, this is absolutely just a me thing since I'm sure he's too professional to let this happen, but the original version of the song actually contained the lyric, I can't go on because you look so f***ing beautiful. What if he accidentally lapses into singing that on the night? It may sound like a really silly concern to have, but for one, as I recall, in the final of Melodifestivalen, Lisa Ajax was told to use the censored version of her song and she didn't, and also, in 2014, I had the same fear for Teo for Belarus. I was just sitting there kind of worried that, oh no, what if he says Google Maps by mistake and he's disqualified on the spot or something? It's not likely, but Robin must keep in mind at all times, don't swear, don't swear, don't swear, and everything will be fine. Now let's put this into some numbers that you can share with your friends like trading cards. Yeah, personal score out of 10 for this one, 7. I actually kind of enjoyed this song. Mind-blowing, I know. It wasn't my favourite from Melodifestivalen by any means, not out of the final, not out of all of the shows, but I'm not upset with them sending it to Eurovision. If nothing else, by not sending their strongest song, they're giving other countries a fair shot at winning. Hey-oh! No, but in all seriousness, I think the rhythm to this one is catchy enough, and if you take the lyrics as mindlessly as they were intended and you don't try to think too hard about it, then it's a pleasant enough 3 minutes. Not my usual style, and he does look a bit arrogant, but I like it enough to give it a 7. It's not terrible, really. And technical score out of 10, I'm inclined towards an 8. It is well produced, both musically and theatrically, as in, you know, for the stage, and he can sing well enough. My objections just stem from the potential perceived insensitivity of the lyrics and the comparative simplicity of the song as a whole. If nothing else, yeah, it's easy to remember the refrain, but from there I can only really remember the rough tune of the verses, and I'll be damned if I can remember what the words are. All that's going through my head is, oh yes, I can't go on, freaking beautiful, sometimes he's backstage. That's kind of all that comes to mind. And that's kind of an issue as well. I mean, will he even be allowed to start the performance backstage in Kiev? Plus, I hope he does change the staging just a little, because it always strikes me as really arrogant that Sweden never adjusts their staging between Melodifestivalen and Eurovision, like they have the attitude of, oh no, the Melodifestivalen stage is so perfect that anything we do on that is already magically optimized for Eurovision. They probably don't think like that, but it just bothers me that they never change anything at all. It just comes across as a little snobby. I don't think it's intended to be, it's just, sometimes I have dumb thoughts like this, Sweden, why are you like this? Picking myself back up off the floor, how would I rate this next to last year's entry? Well, I don't actually remember, but it wouldn't surprise me if I did catch some flack last year for not being able to appreciate Franz's song, but You know what? Yeah, I'll own that. I can't. I did not see the appeal in that song at all. It bored me. It bored me. It doesn't have to bore you, but it did bore me. And it astounded me personally that it was able to come fifth, especially after the lukewarm response it gathered from the public immediately after Melodifestivalen last year. Hell, I was even told by an actual Swede in Sweden while I was there for the Eurovision final at the contest that the common opinion was that Oscar Zia should have represented them instead. So it should come as no surprise that I'm favouring Robin here. His song is legitimately enjoyable to me. Perhaps only me in my household, but still, I do enjoy it, which is a weird sensation to be saying about Sweden, but hey-ho. While I did tolerate Heroes up until it won, then I started to find it annoying, I will say, sincerely, wholeheartedly, cross my heart and die for pie, this is the first Swedish entry that I've properly enjoyed since 2011. It's got its flaws, but then so does every song. I'm not upset with them sending this when all's said and done, so... Sweden, we're on speaking terms. Now, will it qualify? Oh, come on, it's Sweden, so yes. Most likely. I append most likely to that simply because this was just barely in the top 3 in the televote and Melodifestivalen, partly because of the oversaturation of votes from the app, but like I said, now's not the time. So I don't know whether that sentiment will carry over into Eurovision votes. Probably not. Like I said, it's Sweden, and according to the community, they can do no wrong. I won't personally be voting for them, but I wouldn't vote against them if I could, so I won't be salty if they qualify. I might be salty if they win, simply because it's so not better than a few certain other songs from this year, but hey, we'll just have to wait and see what happens when the public and the juries get their hands on this one in May. You could do a lot worse, Sweden. You could do a lot better, which also would have been worse for the rest of us, but hey, if you don't like this song, just call it Sweden, giving everyone else a chance. But to Robin, I will say, good luck, and try not to swear when you get to Kiev, and we'll see you then.